History has a way of concealing its most captivating treasures in the shadows of myth and mystery. Among the greatest of these enigmas lies the tale of a room so magnificent, so dazzling in its artistry, that it was once hailed as the eighth wonder of the world. This was not a palace nor a cathedral, but a chamber unlike any other, the fabled Amber Room. Its walls glow with panels of carved amber, framed in glittering gold leaf, shimmering under candlelight as if the very essence of the sun had been captured and preserved indoors. It was more than a marvel of craftsmanship. It was a symbol of power, diplomacy, and cultural splendor. Yet, just as suddenly as it rose to glory, it vanished into the fog of war. Disassembled, looted, and spirited away by the Nazis during World War II, its fate remains one of history's most enduring mysteries. To understand how such a treasure could inspire awe across centuries, and how it could vanish without a trace, we must travel back to the origins of this extraordinary masterpiece. The story of the Amber Room begins in the early 18th century, during the height of Europe's Baroque age. This was an era when monarchs competed not only in military might, but also in art, architecture, and spectacle. A ruler's power was measured in marble halls, gilded chapels, and ornate chambers designed to impress both ally and rival. In this atmosphere of ambition and grandeur, Frederick I of Prussia conceived of a chamber unlike any other. He envisioned walls covered entirely in amber, a substance long treasured in Northern Europe. Amber, sometimes called the gold of the Baltic, was prized not just for its beauty, but for its rarity and mystical associations. Ancient civilizations had considered it a gift of the gods, a stone of healing, a talisman against evil. By the 18th century, amber had become a luxurious material, reserved for the most exquisite works of art. Frederick commissioned German sculptor Andreas Schluter and Danish craftsman Gottfried Wolfram to bring his dream to life. They were masters of their craft, blending Baroque exuberance with Northern European sensibilities. Piece by piece, they carved amber panels, fitted them with intricate mosaics, and framed them in gilded wood. The result was nothing short of breathtaking. A room that glowed with a warm, golden light, as if bathed in perpetual sunset. Yet destiny had other plans for this masterpiece. The Amber Room was never to remain in Prussia. In 1716, Frederick William I of Prussia, son of Frederick I, faced a diplomatic challenge. His father had left him not only a kingdom, but also a web of fragile alliances. Seeking to strengthen ties with Peter the Great of Russia, Frederick William made a decision that would change the course of history. He presented the Amber Room as a diplomatic gift. The gesture was both political and symbolic. For Prussia, it was a chance to cement friendship with Russia. For Peter the Great, who was obsessed with bringing European sophistication to his empire, it was a prize beyond imagination. The Russian Tsar marveled at the Golden Chamber, recognizing its value not only as an artistic treasure, but also as a symbol of Russia's growing prominence on the world stage. The room was transported to St. Petersburg, the new capital of Peter's empire, where it was carefully installed within the winter house of the Tsar. Later, under Empress Elizabeth, Peter's daughter, it was moved to the Grand Catherine Palace in Tsarskoye Selo, just outside the city. There, it found its permanent home, occupying a chamber that perfectly complemented its splendor. Over time, Russian artisans expanded and enhanced the Amber Room, adding more panels, mirrors, and gilded ornaments. The chamber eventually covered more than 180 square feet and contained over 6 tons of amber. Visitors who entered the room were stunned into silence by its radiant glow, its walls seeming to shimmer and breathe with an otherworldly energy. It was not merely a chamber. It was a living jewel, an icon of Russian power, culture, and prestige. As the 18th century gave way to the 19th, the Amber Room became a legend in its own right. Scholars, diplomats, and royalty who saw it spoke of it in reverent tones. Candlelight made the panels glisten like molten gold. Mirrors multiplied its glow, creating the illusion of endless, golden corridors. Travelers described it as the eighth wonder of the world. For comparison, the 7 wonders of antiquity had long represented the pinnacle of human achievement. To place the Amber Room alongside them was to declare it timeless, transcendent, and utterly unmatched. During the reigns of Catherine the Great and later Russian monarchs, the Amber Room was more than an ornament. It was a symbol of continuity, a reminder that Russia had risen from a distant northern kingdom into a global empire. It represented diplomacy, legacy, and grandeur, all encapsulated within glowing walls. Yet the very qualities that made the Amber Room legendary would also make it vulnerable. For when war swept across Europe, treasures became targets, and even wonders could be reduced to spoils. By the early 20th century, Europe stood on the brink of catastrophe. The First World War shattered the old order, and the Russian Revolution of 1917 swept away the Romanov dynasty that had preserved the Amber Room for 2 centuries. Amid the chaos of civil war, famine, and political upheaval, the Amber Room remained in its chamber at the Catherine Palace. It survived, remarkably untouched, though its fate hung by a thread. In the 1920s and 1930s, as the Soviet Union consolidated power, the Amber Room once again became a symbol, this time not of monarchy but of national pride. Soviet leaders saw it as part of their cultural heritage, a relic of artistic achievement that testified to Russia's place among the great civilizations of the world. But history was about to turn once more. In 1941, Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, its massive invasion of the Soviet Union. Hitler's armies swept across the Eastern Front, capturing cities, looting treasures, and leaving devastation in their wake. Among their targets were cultural treasures, artworks, manuscripts, and relics deemed worthy of the Third Reich. The Amber Room, with its Prussian origins and legendary status, was at the top of the list. When German forces advanced on Leningrad, today's St. Petersburg, they captured the Catherine Palace. Soviet curators, aware of the treasure they safeguarded, tried desperately to protect the Amber Room. But dismantling such a delicate masterpiece proved impossible. Amber, though beautiful, is fragile, prone to cracking and crumbling. The curators attempted to cover the panels with wallpaper in the hope that the Nazis would overlook it, but their efforts were in vain. The German troops knew precisely what they sought. Specialists dismantled the room in just 36 hours, packing the panels into crates and shipping them westward. By October 1941, the Amber Room was installed in Königsberg, the East Prussian city that now lies within modern-day Kaliningrad, Russia. There, it was displayed in Königsberg Castle, where Nazi officials and German citizens alike could marvel at the plundered wonder. Photographs from the period show the Amber Room glowing once again, its golden light now reflecting the triumph of Hitler's conquests. But even as it shone, its fate was already sealed. As the war dragged on, Allied forces closed in on Nazi Germany. Königsberg, heavily bombed by the British Royal Air Force in 1944, became a city of ruins. Firestorms consumed its ancient quarters, and in the chaos, the Amber Room vanished. Some reports suggested that it had been destroyed in the flames, reduced to ashes like so many other treasures. Others insisted that it had been packed into crates once again and spirited away, hidden in salt mines, sealed in underground bunkers, or loaded onto ships that vanished beneath the Baltic Sea. When Soviet troops entered Königsberg in 1945, they found the castle reduced to rubble, but no trace of the Amber Room. The eighth wonder of the world had disappeared without a whisper. The disappearance of the Amber Room remains one of the most tantalizing mysteries of the modern age. When the fires of war subsided in 1945, millions of lives have been lost, cities lay in ruins, and empires had fallen. Yet among the countless losses of World War II, one stood out as both symbolic and deeply personal. The vanishing of a cultural treasure once hailed as the eighth wonder of the world. Part 1 traced the Amber Room's dazzling origins, its rise to glory in the Catherine Palace, and its theft by the Nazis during the invasion of the Soviet Union. We left the tale in 1945, as Soviet forces entered Königsberg to find the castle in ruins and the Amber Room gone without a trace. Now, in Part 2, we follow the trail of clues, explore the labyrinth of theories, and uncover the extraordinary efforts made to solve this enduring enigma. Was the Amber Room truly destroyed in the firebombing of Königsberg? Or was it spirited away, hidden in the depths of mines, bunkers, or beneath the Baltic Sea? When Soviet troops stormed Königsberg in April 1945, they found a city devastated by months of Allied bombing and brutal fighting. The once proud Königsberg Castle, which had housed the Amber Room during the war, was little more than a shell. Walls were charred, roofs collapsed, and treasures had vanished. The immediate assumption by many was simple. The amber room had perished in the inferno. Amber, after all, is highly flammable. A single spark could reduce it to ash. The British air raids in 1944 had unleashed firestorms that consumed entire quarters of a city. Soviet reports in the late 1940s leaned toward this explanation, that the amber room, like so much else, had been destroyed by flames. But this conclusion was far from certain. Some Soviet officers who entered the city claimed they saw no sign of amber debris among the ruins. Others believed the Nazis, well aware of the treasure's value, would never have allowed it to remain unprotected during the bombing. These conflicting accounts sowed the seeds of mystery that would endure for decades. As the years passed, theories about the amber room's fate multiplied. Each new possibility seemed both plausible and fantastical, a riddle that beckoned investigators deeper into the fog of history. The simplest explanation remains that the amber room was consumed in the 1944 air raids on Königsberg. Eyewitnesses described the castle engulfed in flames. Amber, resinous and fragile, would have stood no chance. Supporters of this theory argue that the lack of physical remains is not surprising. Amber burns into an oily smoke, leaving little behind. Others insist that the Nazis hid the amber room deep within the cellars of Königsberg Castle. In the confusion of the bombings and Soviet advance, records may have been lost and the treasure entombed beneath the rubble. Yet extensive excavations of the site after the war, and again in later decades, yielded no definitive evidence. Perhaps the most alluring theory is that the Nazis managed to evacuate the amber room before the city fell. Some accounts suggest it was created and loaded onto a train bound for Germany. Others point to mines in Poland, bunkers scattered across East Prussia, or even castles in Bavaria where stolen art was hidden. Another possibility places the amber room at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. In 1945, as Soviet forces advanced, Germany launched desperate evacuation operations by sea. Ships laden with refugees and treasures set sail from East Prussia. Some were sunk by Soviet submarines. Among them was the Wilhelm Gustloff, torpedoed with thousands aboard. Could the amber room have been aboard one such doomed vessel, lost forever beneath the waves? These theories became the foundation of an obsession that continues to this day. In the decades after World War II, the amber room became both a political symbol and a cultural mystery. The Soviet Union launched investigations, but in the climate of secrecy and propaganda, little was revealed to the public. Official reports often leaned toward the theory of destruction, perhaps to close the matter. But whispers persisted that Moscow knew more than it admitted. Treasure hunters in the West, meanwhile, were not deterred. The mystery of the amber room became a quest for fortune and fame. Expeditions probed abandoned mines in Germany and Poland. Divers scoured the Baltic seabed. Every rumor sparked a new search. In the 1970s and 1980s, the obsession deepened. Journalists published books claiming to have uncovered the truth. One claimed the amber room was hidden in the Ore Mountains on the German-Czech border. Another insisted it was buried beneath Polish soil. Yet time and again, excavations ended in disappointment, revealing only empty tunnels and false leads. The Cold War climate only heightened the intrigue. Soviet authorities occasionally fueled speculation by announcing new searches or discoveries, only to later retract them. The amber room became a symbol of lost glory, an enigma that bridged the gap between East and West. Even after the fall of the Soviet Union, the amber room continued to inspire adventurers and conspiracies. In 1997, a German art dealer attempted to sell a mosaic that had once belonged to the amber room. The panel was confirmed to be authentic, reigniting hope that the rest of the chamber had survived. Where then were the other pieces? Excavations in Kaliningrad uncovered tunnels that some believed could conceal the amber room. In Poland, treasure hunters explored the Wuppertal and Masurian regions, convinced the Nazis had buried it in mines or bunkers. In 2017, divers announced they had found a shipwreck, the Karlsruhe, which they believed might contain the treasure. To this day, excavations continue, but alongside genuine efforts came countless hoaxes. False panels were presented as fragments of the room. Treasure maps circulated, pointing to castles, lakes, or forests. Each revelation brought excitement, only to collapse under scrutiny. The amber room seemed to dance just beyond reach, always promised, never delivered. While the mystery endured, a parallel story unfolded in Russia. In 1979, the Soviet government began an ambitious project to reconstruct the Amber Room from scratch. Craftsmen studied surviving photographs, blueprints, and fragments. Using traditional techniques, they carved amber panels, gilded frames, and mirrors to recreate the lost wonder. The work took decades. Amber is not easily worked. Each piece had to be cut, polished, and fitted with painstaking care. The cost ran into millions, funded partly by German donations as a gesture of reconciliation. Finally, in 2003, 3 centuries after the room was first conceived, the reconstructed Amber Room was unveiled in the Catherine Palace. Visitors once again could step into a chamber glowing with golden light, a resurrection of the past. Yet for all its magnificence, the replica did not solve the riddle. The original remains missing. Why does the Amber Room continue to fascinate? Perhaps because it is more than a missing treasure. It is a symbol of human ambition, artistry, and folly. It embodies the grandeur of monarchs who sought to immortalize themselves through beauty. It reflects the tragedy of war, when even wonders can be reduced to spoils. It speaks to the mysteries that lie hidden in history, tantalizing us with the possibility that somewhere in a forgotten vault or beneath the sea, the golden glow of the Amber Room still awaits discovery. The mystery also endures because it touches something universal, the allure of the lost. Humanity has always been drawn to what vanishes: the Library of Alexandria, the tomb of Genghis Khan, the treasures of the Knights Templar. The Amber Room stands among these legends, a reminder that not all stories find closure. And so, we return to the question that has haunted generations. What became of the Amber Room? Was it consumed by fire, lost forever in the ruins of Königsberg? Or does it lie hidden, waiting for the moment when sunlight will once again reveal its golden glow? Until that day comes, if it ever does, the Amber Room will remain both history and legend, a symbol of beauty, loss, and the eternal mystery of human ambition. The search continues. If you've enjoyed this journey into one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more explorations of legends, lost treasures, and the secrets of the past. The Amber Room may never reveal its fate, but together, we keep the story alive.